Om Jnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, text 27 of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have Ichcha Dvesha Samuttena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. Translation: Ocean of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. Okay. The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, whose pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So here we see that how the living entity becomes envious of Krishna, the Supreme Lord who is taking care of us since time immemorial. But then a living entity becomes envious of Krishna. Mm. So pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Sri Krishna appears by his internal potencies, but those who are deluded by duality and nishads think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, women and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc. Thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. So we saw in the Sloka, no, this particular point, Dvandva Mohena Bharata, right? Ichcha Dvesha, it is desire and hate, no, like Samuttena, Dvandva Mohena Bharata. So this Dvandva means the duality. And what is that duality? No, here Prabhupada gives a very nice list of items. The deluded people. Who are the deluded people? No, who have envied Krishna, or who don't want to be with Krishna and things like that. So they are deluded and they dwell in dualities. No, honor and dishonor. No, somebody has given me respect, somebody has not respected me, and things like that. And then misery and happiness, women and man, good and bad, pains and pleasure. So these are all things arising from dualities, right? So in the spiritual consciousness, so we don't have these kind of dualities where these things can affect us, right? So this is my wife, this is my house, I'm the master of the house, I'm the husband of this wife. So these are all dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded, so why this is all dualities? Because in reality, no, who is anyone? No, everything that belongs to the Lord, and nothing mine. No, I am a servant of the Lord, and all these entities which are there, they are also properties of Lord, right? So that is proper understanding. So when it comes, this is mine and that is somebody else's, then immediately it becomes duality. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Text 28. So this is also very important sloka. So in the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we will find so many often quoted slokas. It's very important chapter actually. Here text 28. Esham tva antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavratah. So it says, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination, right? So who have acted uh, piously in previous lives. So it is not that one lifetime's piety can actually bring a person closer to Krishna. So many lifetimes where we have been accumulating the devotional piety of unknowingly serving some devotees and unknowingly doing some devotional service, and then we get little bit of piety, and then next life we get more chance to do devotional service, and then finally, no, when we actually take up the process very seriously, so then no, we are going to make no, some endeavor towards perfection, right? So many people come to our Gita course, so many people know, take part in our programs and things like that, but how many actually commit themselves fully for practicing Krishna consciousness? It generally takes many lifetimes. It's not, no, it doesn't happen so easily in one lifetime. So people who have got some punya, they will be attracted to the Lord, they will be attracted to the holy name of the Lord, they will be attracted to the deity form of the Lord, they will be attracted to the prasad of the Lord. So in this way, like no, they will have some attraction towards the Lord. So that means they have got some punya, they have already practiced Krishna consciousness in their past life, and to some extent they have progressed, and somehow or other they were not able to finish, or they just left in a very beginning stage or something like that. So then one more life of birth, going to the school, getting beatings from the teacher, and so many things, like they have to go through all this thing just because they have not finished their Krishna consciousness in one lifetime. So in this way, like generally it takes many lifetimes before a person actually commits himself, saying, no, like enough is enough, I have done so much in this material world, I don't want to keep going around in this material world, I want to finish the business. So then he takes up Krishna consciousness very seriously, right? So it also requires the sinful actions and sinful reactions be completely eradicated, and then one become free from dualities and delusion, and then they can engage themselves in the service of the Lord with determination. Otherwise the determination doesn't come, right? So the determination comes from purity. So purport, those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish, and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it requires a thorough purification. So a lifetime of application in the process of Krishna consciousness, right? So then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees. For in the association of great devotees, one can be delivered from delusion. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 552 that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees. Mahat sevam dvara mahur vimukte. Yeah? So this is like instructions by the Rishabhadev to his sons, right? So in the fifth canto, fifth chapter. So Mahat sevam. So by the rendering service to Mahat, to great devotees, no dwaram, no the entrance opens to for what? Ahur vimukte. So the door for liberation actually opens up then we render service to great personalities, right? So, but who associates with the materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest region of existence, tamodvaram. Tamodvaram, tama means like darkness or hellish planets. So tamadvaram, yoshitam sangi sangam. So those people who are attached with the materialistic people, so they become, for them the door to the hell gets opened. And those people who associate and render service to great devotees of the Lord, so the door to the liberation gets opened, right? So all the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion. So this is the purpose for which the liberated souls actually come to this world, so that the common people may get some opportunity to serve them, and in this way, these common people may get delivered from their delusion. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination. Right? So it's very important, getting reinstated in our original position means to come to the point of understanding at least the basic aspect that we are not the body, we are the soul. And the first thing is, by the practice of devotion, one may get rid of all the sinful reactions, and then by the service to the great personalities, our door to the liberation gets opened, and then we are able to enter into the loving transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, and the determination also comes up. So once the sins are reduced, then immediately determination comes up, and then by the association of great personalities, so wherever they are, they belong to. If they belong to Vaikuntha, so then we get an affection to the Vaikuntha, and if they belong to the Goloka Vrindavan or Navadvip, then we will get attachment to that particular place. So in this way, we can see that we get the determination by removing the sinful reactions, and we get particular affection towards the Lord and particular form of the Lord and particular holy place of the Lord by the association of great personalities who are similarly attached, right? Okay, text 29. जरा मरण मोक्षाय मामाश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते ब्रह्म तद्विद कृत्स्नम् अध्यात्मं कर्म चाखिलम्. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberations from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually um, Brahman, because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So here we see that those people who are trying to get out of the cycle of birth and death, so they are, always they take refuge in the Supreme Lord Krishna in devotional service. No, they're not just simply taking refuge. In many ways, we can actually take refuge of the Lord, but the actual refuge or actual shelter of the Lord means to apply oneself in the process of devotional service. Even karma yoga is also one form of taking shelter of the Lord. Jnana yoga and dhyana yoga, these are all no different forms of taking shelter of the Lord. But then that is not the complete way of taking shelter of the Lord. The complete way of taking shelter of the Lord is bhakti yoga, devotional service. Okay. Um, and they are actually Brahman. So why they are at Brahman? Because they are fully, their consciousness is Brahma Bhuta. No, their consciousness is fully occupied in the thoughts of Brahman. So they themselves are equivalent to Brahman. No, because they carry the Lord in their heart. They can actually make any place a holy place. So the devotees of the Lord, advanced devotees of the Lord, so they can make any place into a holy place because they carry the Lord, and who makes various places holy, right? So in this way, like they actually become, they are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about the transcendental activities. Okay, purport. Birth, death, old age, and disease affect this material body, but not the spiritual body. There is no birth, death, old age, and disease for the spiritual body. And so, one who attains a spiritual body, becomes one of the associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engages in eternal devotional service is really liberated. Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit. It is said that one should understand that he is Brahman, spirit, soul. This Brahman conception of life is also in devotional service. As described in this verse, the pure devotees are transcendently situated on the Brahman platform and they know everything about transcendental activities. Four kinds of impure devotees who engage themselves in transcendental service of the Lord achieve their respective goals, and by grace of the Supreme Lord, when they are fully Krishna conscious, they actually enjoy spiritual association with the Supreme Lord. So, four kinds of impure devotees. We have different kinds of Mishrit devotees and also Artho, Arthat, Jignashu, Jnani. So all these kind of people are there. So they are all mixed kind of devotees. So they may achieve different destinations, but then at the ultimate end, because they have taken to the process of devotional service, so they will they will be able to perfect and they will be able to come to the point of ultimate perfection sooner or later. No, if not now, definitely they are going to get perfection in near future. Okay, so, but those who are worshippers of demigods never reach the Supreme Lord in his supreme planet. So, the demigod worshippers, no, they cannot enter into the supreme planet. Even if a person is going for some material benefit to the Lord, still that is appreciated than a very selfless worker. Maybe a philanthropist or somebody who's very selfless. No, because he's not going to the Supreme Lord, he's not having udaradi, he's not having a broad mind. No, he has something very small and he's trying to help people with a small viewpoint, wherein he is not approaching the Supreme Lord. So approaching the Supreme Lord is very important rather than being so-called good or morally good in this world, right? So no, that gives more chance for a person to advance because Bhagavatam gives this idea: Yashyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunestatra Samasate Suraha Haravabhaktasya Kuto Mahat Gunan Manorathena Asti Davato Bahihi. So it is mentioned that no Yashasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarver Gunes Tatra Samasate Sura. So if a devotee of the Lord, no, he may be not a well-behaved person, but because he is a devotee of the Lord, very soon, he'll be bestowed with all the good qualities, that is found in the demigods and that's found in great personalities. So in this way, we can see that the Lord, what is that? The devotee of the Lord, even though he doesn't have good qualities, because he's becoming a devotee of the Lord, very soon he will acquire the devotional qualities. But on the contrary, a materialistic person or a demigod worshipper or these kind of people, so even though they may possess many wonderful good qualities, so the Bhagavatam says, what's the use? Because they have not got attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. Their good qualities are very temporary. No, probably for some time it will be there, or probably for a lifetime it will be there. Then no, they will lose all those things. They will again have to go through the cycle of various species, and then who knows whatever way the material nature is orienting them. They will just be like that. So the good qualities which comes because of some material qualities, because of the three modes of nature, that is not very wonderful and that is not very stable. No, it is chanchala. That kind of quality is chanchala. But the good qualities that comes because of we being devotee of the Lord, that's very amazing. No, that's very amazing. So that's something like which is mentioned here, right? So we see that even the less intelligent Brahman realized person cannot reach the supreme planet of Krishna known as Goloka Vrindavan. Only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness, Mam Ashritya, are actually entitled to be called Brahman because they are actually endeavoring to reach the Krishna planet. Such persons have no misgivings about Krishna, and thus they are factually Brahman. Right? So here it's talked about three kinds of people. One is the demigod worshippers; they cannot even imagine going to Krishna, and there is mixed devotees or impure devotees. they have a good chance to go to Krishna, but it will take some time because they are not pure in their motive. But because they have gone to Krishna, there is a chance. If they don't go to Krishna, there is no chance. And then the final stage is those devotees who are seasoned, who are pakka in their devotional service, and who doesn't do anything else apart from devotional service, all their time. So then it becomes a very very proper situation, right? So all of us are trying to become like that. All of us trying to become no this mam ashritya. So we want to take full shelter of Krishna, and we want to experience the platform of Brahman, means experience the platform of transcendental reality. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, no, we will become very, very happy. And na soshati na kangshati, sama sarvesu bhuteshu madbhakte labate param. Right? So in this way, we can actually become very, very dear to Krishna. Hmm? And we can actually enter into the spiritual consciousness, right? So if we apply ourselves completely in service of the Lord. Okay, those who are engaged in worshipping the form or archa of the Lord, or who are engaged in meditation on the Lord simply for liberation from material bondage, also know by the grace of the Lord the purport of Brahman, uh, Adi Bhuta, etc., as explained by the Lord in the next chapter. So that is no. This is something which Krishna uses these words actually here. Mm, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mam Ashritya Yatanti Ye Te Brahma Tad Vidu Krishnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakilam. So this Brahma, what is Kim Brahma, Kim Adhyatma, Kim? No, all those things Arjuna will ask in the next chapter. What all these things that you're talking about? What is this Brahma? What is this Adhyatma? And then furthermore, Krishna is going to put many more terms, and Arjuna will ask for clarification, and that will be explained in the next chapter. Sadibhuthadi Daivam Mam. That means Sa Adibhuta and Sa Adi Daiva, right? So like Sadibhuthadi Daivam Mam. So like Adibhuta and Adi Daivam. So this is Adibhuta, Adi Daivam, and Adhyatma. Like no, all these three things are there. So no, Arjuna is asking about that, or Krishna is speaking about that, but he will not understand. He will ask for the clarification in the next chapter. Okay, Sadhibhutadi Daivam Mam Sadhyajnam Cha Ye Viduhu pra, Prayana Kalepi Cha Mam Te Viduryukta Chetasaha. So this is Adibhuta, Adi Daiva, and Adi Yajnam. No, the three things are mentioned. And yeah, so let's see what the translation says. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Those people who are fully in consciousness of the Lord, fully engaged in Krishna's service, so then they can even understand the Lord, or they can even remember the Lord even at the time of death, which is quite uncongenial or quite difficult to remember anything. It's very very disturbing and very painful kind of situation. But then even in that situation, they will be able to perceive the Lord. That's a very amazing aspect. Okay, purport. Persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of death, such a Krishna conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, that is Goloka Vrindavan. This seventh chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is the association of persons who are Krishna conscious, right? So, this is how we begin. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is by association of persons who are Krishna conscious. And such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, Okay, so here it's talked about association of devotees is the primary principle. So, what do we do in the association of devotees? Just a simple thought process. Devotees can either put in the chat box or speak up. What do we do in the association of devotees? What is actually called association of devotees? If somebody can cite a shloka for this, it will be very nice also. Yes, Rahul Prabhu, you can say.
Prabhuji, Hari Prabhuji,
Yes.
Prabhuji, the first sloka that comes in my head is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasam Sakramata Nivedanam. So devotees, we talk about the glories of the Lord. That's the first thing that we would do.
Mhm. That's nice. Amazing. So this is what the devotees do when devotees come together, right? So any other devotee wants to comment upon any sloka that you remember in this regard? Any sloka that you remember in this regard, which uh, all of you should try to memorize shlokas. Shlokas are very, very powerful, and maybe weekly one, two, three, four. Based on your capacity. As you start memorizing shlokas, you will become. It will become very, very easy for you to memorize more shlokas, right? So, and each of these shlokas actually have. If you want to remember an English portion, it will take a lot of time for you. But then once you memorize a shloka, it becomes very, very easy, right? So just the first word is sufficient. You'll remember the entire sloka, and you can actually get the meaning out of it, right? So it's not that you know all the meaning. So you just get the first word, you recite, and then you get the whole meaning of the this one. So we have this Satam Prasangan, Mama Virya Samvido, Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana Kata, Tad Joshanada Vapavargavatmani, Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramashyati, that is there. And then Machita Madkata Prana Bodayantascha Parasparam, Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. So that is also there in the Bhagavad Gita, that my devotees, when they come together, they always discuss my glories, and they take so much pleasure in discussing the glories of the Lord, right? And then, okay, so my sister is telling that Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaya, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy, right? So, in this way, like we can see that there are many, many slokas glorifying the association of the devotees, and specifically, what do we do in the association of devotees? We discuss the glories of the Lord. Mat chitta, no, mat chitta, mat gata prana, bodayantascha parasparam. So they do bodhayantascha parasparam. Bodhayanta means to speak, to instruct each other. So like that, no, bodhayantascha parasparam. About what? Mat chitta. So Lord is speaking. No, they keep me in my consciousness. Mad gata and prana. Like no, they become very, very attached to the Lord. The devotees are very attached to the Lord, and they speak about the Lord to one another. Bodhayantascha parasparam, katayantascha mam nityam. No, like they speak about me, no, always. Katayantascha mam nityam. So they speak about the Supreme Lord all the time, right? So katayantascha mam nityam. And by doing this, what happens? Tushyanti cha. Tushyanti means like tushti, means satisfaction. Tushyanti cha, no, ramanti means to enjoy, to take a great levels of pleasure. No, tushyanti cha ramanti cha, right? So this is what happens in the association of devotees. So if we don't do these things in the association of devotees, then it is not called association of devotees. We are only coming together and talking some worldly stuffs. Then it is not association of devotees. Association of devotees means, no, in such association there is wonderful discussion about the topics of the Lord is there, and then we actually derive a lot of pleasure in that, right? So when do we derive a lot of pleasure in this, in such topics? When we actually, a good amount of our sinful reactions is reduced. So then we take a lot of pleasure in discussing Krishna Katha and chanting the names of the Lord, hearing his glories and things like that, right? So that's called association, right? So in the beginning stage, in when we don't have much of taste for the Krishna Katha, no, we have to like we have to do this as a process, and then very quickly our sinful reactions will get eradicated. Then we can actually get the real taste of Krishna consciousness, right? Okay. um, can you please send more shlokas to memorize? It will give us to be near to the Lord. Yes, actually, we have a book called uh, Selected Verses from Vedic Scriptures, which is a set of slokas which Srila Prabhupada often used to cite. And I have a PDF of that particular book. I'll send it across, and kindly memorize. Kindly, you can try to take some time out and try to memorize. I'll send it across in our both our ACS Sangha group and also in the Bhagavatam reading group. So then, you can take it and you can memorize them one by one. It's very, very nice actually. Each sloka that we memorize, it's a gem, and it can save us from deepest trouble. No. Okay. So the beginning of Krishna consciousness is association of persons who are Krishna conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand Krishna to be Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, one can really understand the um, constitutional position of the living entity, and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. By gradual development of Krishna consciousness in good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. He can also understand that this human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness, and that it should be fully utilized to attain the costless mercy of the Lord. This is very, very important. No, like he can also understand that this human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness, and it should be fully utilized to attain the costless mercy of the Supreme Lord. So we may remember when we were discussing the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, we were discussing that last sloka, last and the before one. So we saw that how the Supreme Lord is there in the beginning and middle and end of the creation, and then He is the only one who exists, and everything that exists is His property. Everything is done, and then we see that what's the goal of a living entity? What is our goal? Our goal is to search out this Lord. No, that's the main aspect. Our goal is to find this Lord. Where is this Lord? No, that is the most important business of the living entity. We have to try to find out Lord, right? So that's the main thing that Bhagavatam says, and it's very, very clear. And we have to take this opportunity very seriously. In human form of life, we are there, and we should fully perfect our Krishna consciousness. Okay, many subjects have been discussed in this chapter. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death, and disease, and worship of the Supreme Lord. However, he who is actually elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for the different processes. He simply directly engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness, and thereby factually attain his constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord. In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. He is convinced that by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dridavataha, and it is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service. This is the verdict of all scriptures. This seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. So we see that how Dridavata comes, like by eradicating the sinful reactions, and then we can take pleasure in reading and hearing and discussing about the pastimes of the Lord. And here Prabhupada gives a nice summary. So this chapter starts with the word, by saying we have to hear about the Supreme Lord, and then it talked about the four kinds of people who will approach the Lord, four kinds of people who will not approach the Lord, and then knowledge of Brahman and knowledge of Paramatma. So like very, very confidential knowledge is given. And then no we see that like how by purifying ourselves we can actually become determined, and we can actually take pleasure in the narrations of the Supreme Lord's pastimes. Okay, so thus in the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of knowledge of the Absolute. So chapter 8, attaining the Supreme. Okay, so we will start the chapter 8 tomorrow, right? So I'll just break the session here and to prepare for another uh, activity. So thank you all very much for joining. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Book Marathon ki jai. Hare Krishna.